In this video lesson, we're going to refresh our memory for how to solve three-part inequalities. I've started off with a really simple one below. We have 2 is less than x plus 4 less than or equal to 7. Now, we really have 3 parts to this equation, so we can divide this into 3 parts, and this x is sitting right in the middle. We want to have x all by itself. So in order to achieve that, I want to subtract 4 here. Well, if I do that in the middle, I need to do it on the left. And I also need to do the same thing on the right. So 2 minus 4 is negative 2 is less than x is less than or equal to 3. And there we have our answer. Now we can write that answer in interval notation if we like. Our answer is all numbers that go from negative 2 up to and including 3. All right, let's look at a more complicated one. Here we have negative 4 less than or equal to 2x minus 1 less than or equal to 5. Now we're going to focus our attention on where x is and how we're going to get x all by itself. So here's x in the middle. We want to get it all by itself. And so our first step is to add 1, just like we would any equation, but we're going to do it in 3 places, not both sides, but all 3 sides of our inequality. Negative 4 plus 1 gives us negative 3, less than or equal to 2x. 5 plus 1 gives us 6. Now, the last step to get x by itself is to divide all 3 parts by 2. And we get negative 3 halves, or 1.5 either way, is less than or equal to x, is less than or equal to 3. Or we could write this in interval notation, negative 3 halves, comma 3. Those are all our answers. You'll notice these are square brackets because I have equal signs underneath the less than. All right, let's look at one last one. Again, you'll notice here that x is sitting in the middle here. We want to get x by itself. Our first step is to get rid of that negative 2 that's on the bottom. So I'm going to multiply all 3 parts by negative 2. And actually, I want to write it kind of so I can cancel it. So let me start this again. We're going to multiply by negative 2 here, by negative 2 here, and by negative 2 here. When I multiply it by the middle, I'll just put parentheses around the whole thing. So here, the negative 2's cancel, completely gone. On the left, negative 2 times 1 gives me negative 2. And then I remember I'm multiplying by a negative, so this less than becomes a greater than. On this one, the negative 2's cancel, and I'm left with 4x minus 5. And this also changes to a greater than. Negative 18 is 9 times negative 2. Now I do similar steps like before. Add 5 to all 3 parts. So see, we get 3 is greater than 4x is greater than negative 13. And now I divide by 4. 3/4 is greater than x is greater than negative 13/4. And this makes sense because you'll notice x, the greater than, is bigger than the negative number and less than the positive number. And that happened because when we multiply by the negative, we switched our sign for less than to greater than. So if we want to write this in interval notation, our low end is negative 13/4, and our high end of our interval is 3/4.